Welcome to Delivering Miracles, a podcast to teach women like you tips and strategies on how you can have a safer pregnancy so you can bring home a healthy baby. I'm your host and your high-risk pregnancy expert, Parijat Deshpande. I can't wait to chat with you. When I landed on bed rest 6 weeks into my pregnancy, I had to stop working. And that not working phase lasted through pregnancy, through my son's lengthy NICU stay, and for years after he came home so I could keep up with his medical appointments. Not having a career or that extra income while still having a job that was flexible so I could care for him was so stressful. And I know so many moms feel the same way, which is why I recommend Christine McAllister's Income Replacement Formula book. And you can actually listen to it for free while you're shuttling yourself to doctor's appointments or keeping up with your kids' activities. Head over to audibletrial.com/deliveringmiracles and download this audiobook for free and get a free 30-day trial to check out Audible's service. That's audibletrial.com/deliveringmiracles. Hey, have you checked out my brand new book, Pregnancy Brain, yet? It's all about the mind-body approach to stress management during a high-risk pregnancy specifically. It has stories from my very high-risk pregnancy, tons of client stories, and so much research on the impact of stress on pregnancy and pregnancy complications and how you can have a healthy pregnancy. I would love for you to check it out at pregnancybrainbook.com. That's pregnancybrainbook.com. One of the cool things about the work that I do is I get to connect with a lot of really amazing people. So on social media, especially Instagram, has been really, really awesome and fun at connecting with so many people in the community, moms and to-be moms, and so many different providers and different colleagues of mine in a variety of different fields that are working to help women have healthy pregnancies. It's been really awesome. Once in a while, though, I get an opportunity to take a sneak peek into the worlds and the lives of some of these people based on what they share. And recently, there is an obstetrician that I follow who shared that she's pregnant, which is really cool to me that an obstetrician would share her journey of pregnancy, because I'm always so curious what it's like when you're professionally in that field and then when you're personally involved, like our NICU nurses. When our NICU nurses get pregnant, and there was actually one of our NICU nurses had preemies in the hospital in the NICU. I was always very curious, like, what is that like? That must be very interesting to know things from both sides. So I've been following her and just getting a sense of what it's like to be pregnant. And she just recently announced it and all that. And she posted most recently about the fact that it was this very introspective post about pregnancy and her changing body and what to expect and what she knows to expect intellectually, but then what to expect just as a woman and as a person now that her body is growing this little human. And one of the things she said is that I know as an OB, I'm not quoting, this is a paraphrasing of it, that I know as an OB, I'm not in control. So I'm just going to let whatever happen. And I had to restrain myself from saying something. I love this woman. She's wonderful. She's amazing. But that comment is so wrong on so many levels. I knew I had to come on here and do a whole episode on this, because this is the message that way too many pregnant women are getting. Way too many women, way too many people are getting that we have no control over our health. And there's nothing we can do. And so I'm grateful for today, which is great. Yes, it's amazing. It's so, so important to be grateful. But to think that you have nothing in your control about how your pregnancy progresses is so wrong. It is so wrong. Oh my gosh. It starts from, oh my God, where do I even begin? I mean, I knew I had to talk about this. And as I'm talking about it, I'm getting all worked up again, because this is the conversation that needs to change. I am so tired of women who are struggling to get pregnant, who are struggling to stay pregnant, who have healthy pregnancies, who are healing postpartum. being told that there's nothing in their control and you've just got to sit back and wait and see what happens. And oh well. And it drives me crazy that medical professionals, the people that we're supposed to look to as our rocks, believe that. Now, I get it. I get it from their perspective and their training. That is what they know and that is what they believe. Most of them do. But if you have read Pregnancy Brain, the book that just came out, it's an Amazon bestseller, came out recently, it debunks all of that because, and I quote so many physicians who have actually realized how wrong that message is. We have this idea for some reason that being in control is a bad thing, that, hey, we got to let go, chill out, let it be, take it as it comes. And in general, that is fantastic advice until it actually hurts you. When it comes to your health care, it's actually extremely important to be in control, to believe that you have control, and then to act on it. Because it actually impacts your health, whether you are trying to get pregnant or you are pregnant right now, or you are healing postpartum. I think what happens is when we say control, when it comes to health, we think for some reason we have tied it to an outcome. We can't control all outcomes. She's right about that. You can't control everything that's going to happen. But you have so much control on the path that you take and what each step of the journey is like. That is not my opinion. That is scientific fact. That is biology. You have more control than you are made to believe when it comes to your fertility, your pregnancy, and your postpartum health. Believing that is critical. It is a critical piece to getting pregnant, staying pregnant, and healing postpartum. I think the big challenge here is really identifying what we mean by control, right? When I say the word control, what do you think of? Some like obsessive person who's like massive list maker, checklists everywhere, needing to be on top of every little detail, can't handle when things go wrong, type A, freak. Yes, I'm describing myself. Maybe I'm describing you too. But you hear how judgmental those words are? It's terrible. It's terrible. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be in control, but it's what we're controlling that matters. There needs to be a distinction between what is in our control and what is not. And I think that's hard to do when people like this woman, and it's not just her. I'm singling her out only because I saw her post most recently. But she's not the only one that's doing it. If you, like I said, if you read Pregnancy Brain, you'll hear that my physicians did the same thing. They were fantastic. I hear from women every single day who tell me their doctor said the same thing. There's nothing you can do. Just wait and see. There's nothing you can do. That's just the culture that we're in. Family members, your loved ones are probably telling you the same thing. Just relax. Take it easy. But there's a difference between what we can control and what we can't control. And knowing that difference is really, really critical. And the biggest difference really is we can't control all the outcomes, but we can actually control the steps that we take to get there, right? Like, if you know a little bit about my story, my son was born at 24 weeks and 5 days. That is not the outcome I wanted. I mean, thank goodness he survived. Thank goodness he is doing so well as he's doing right now. I would love him either way, right? But I would not want him to be born at 24 weeks and 5 days again. That is way too freaking early. So the outcome, the ultimate outcome of that pregnancy, we can't control that because we don't know. We don't know what's going to happen. But we can set ourselves up for certain outcomes. We can increase the chances of certain outcomes. We can stack the deck in our favor for certain outcomes. All of those things are in our control. All of those things impact, if you imagine your health as a train, they impact which track you're on. I mean, think about it. If you want to lose weight, and you don't exercise and you eat junk food, you're going to be on the track that does not lead to losing weight. We all know that, right? Obviously. Your weight may not be in your control. It may be impacted by your thyroid, your hormones, your sleep patterns, your stress, genetics. We don't know. There can be so many things impacting your weight, right? So we don't know if you're going to lose the 50, 100 pounds that you're going for. But we do know that you can control the choices you make every single day to move that train off of the not losing weight track to the losing weight track. How many pounds are you going to lose? We don't know that. That we don't know. But you do have control over helping your body shed the weight you are trying to lose. That is the same thing when it comes to fertility and pregnancy. Will you bring a baby home? Nobody knows. Especially if you have a complicated history, if you have a history of recurrent pregnancy loss, you've got a history of preterm delivery, you don't have a history of that, but this pregnancy is high risk and you've got complications stacking up all over the place. We don't know. We don't know. And that is extremely hard to wrap your head around. But that doesn't mean you are out of control. That doesn't mean there's nothing you can do to help yourself. Give yourself the best chance at bringing this baby home. Does that mean you will? Nobody knows. But that doesn't mean that you've got to accept being in the back seat of this car that you're on. You are the driver still. You are the driver still. And it drives me crazy that so many medical professionals, so many service providers, so many people who love you are telling you otherwise. There's an entire body of literature on this idea of control. And it started out more in the realm of personality. Like, how can you be successful? Can you be happy, right? You might have heard of the name Martin Seligman, who is kind of the founder of positive psychology, where he's really tied this idea of control to happiness. That the more you realize how much control you have on your life, the happier you are. That's where the research started. And it started with this idea that there's it's a very discrete kind of separate way of describing that. I don't think people fall into two categories necessarily, but this is how it is. There's either people who believe that their life can be in control. It's called an internal locus of control, meaning you believe that you have control over your life. Or what's called an external locus of control, which is a belief that your life is controlled by something outside of you that you cannot influence. Okay? Now that research, which is decades and decades old, that has shifted and morphed to the health realm. Is there a difference in health outcomes when a patient believes they have control or not? There's a lot of questions about and research about if you have that internal locus of control, meaning if you believe that positive health results come from your own efforts or your own willpower or choices that you've made, does that make a difference overall in your health? Versus if you believe that whatever happens in your health is determined by something outside of you that you can't influence or you can't impact. And as you can imagine, there's hardly any research that takes that into pregnancy or reproductive health specifically. That's a whole other venting session we can have about why this research is not funded and why it doesn't seem to be important to anybody. But that's why we're talking about it. Because I know you're feeling it. I know you know where I'm going with this. Because you felt it. I felt it. Too many of us have felt it. When you submit to the idea that you have no control during fertility treatment, when you're trying to get pregnant, when you are pregnant, when you've got pregnancy complications, you experience tremendous physiological stress in your body. And there's an entire episode of Delivering Miracles that I did on what this physiological stress response is. It's episode 74. I'll link it in the show notes so you can take a look and see what I mean by that. But it creates physical changes, biological, chemical changes in your body that are shown to create environments in the body that are not conducive to fertility, to healthy pregnancy, to postpartum emotional or physical healing. When you submit to the idea that you have no control, that you cannot influence your health when you're trying to get pregnant or you are pregnant right now, you are highly susceptible, at higher risk of developing depression, of anxiety, clinical anxiety disorders, of experiencing trauma. You experience more physical pain. You become socially isolated. You become more distrustful of your medical team, which means you follow their advice less because you don't believe that they necessarily have your best interest at heart, which leads to what? More Googling, more time online forums, more time asking people and polling people on what they think you should be doing, feeling confused, feeling overwhelmed. What does that do? It impacts your sleep. You're not sleeping well. It impacts your digestion. It impacts how much pain you feel. It impacts how your body functions. You generally just feel like, ugh, way more often. You get sick more often because of the changes that are happening in your body. Your immune system is going down. These are all terrible. But one of the worst that I see is there's way more guilt postpartum. Way, way, way more guilt postpartum. Way too many women reaching out going, what if I had done something differently? What if I hadn't made that choice? What if this happened because I did that one thing that one day? And there's just this haunting thought that won't go away. And the opposite is just as powerful. When you believe that you have control over your health, when you are trying to get pregnant, when you are pregnant and are trying to stay pregnant, when you understand that you can influence your health, that the actions, the choices that you are taking right now have an impact on that track that you're on. It helps determine which track you're on and how far on that track you go. Really, really amazing things happen in your body. Number one, that belief that you can influence your health protects you against developing depression and anxiety disorders. It protects against traumatic reactions that last. Even if you do experience a pregnancy or birth trauma, you're able to heal from it a lot easier. You have less anxiety. There is a diminished physiological stress response. You know what I mean if you've listened to episode 74. All of that improves digestion, sleep quality, pain levels. It makes you more likely to reach out and have a social support network around you, reach out for help, keep people involved. Even when things are falling apart and you feel like nobody understands, you're more likely to stay connected to the people around you. Research has shown that patients who believe they have control over their health actually trust their physicians more. Isn't that interesting? Right? That the more you believe you can impact your health, suddenly your medical team, how you experience your team and the medical care they provide is totally different. Because you see it, you approach it now as a collaborative relationship and not someplace that you go to get the answers. And if they don't have the answers, you just kind of go home and hope somebody else has the answers, or you'll find them online or something, or you find some peace with not knowing what the answers are. You trust them more because you also know that what your doctor recommends and what the treatment plan is not just based on what your doctor tells you. It's based on the questions you ask, and it's based on your comments and your feedback and what feels good to you, which ultimately is a way to say, if you believe you have an influence on your health, you're much more effective at advocating for yourself. And when you advocate for yourself and you trust your team more, you're more likely to stick to the treatment protocols that you both come up with because you both have come up with them. It's not something that someone's ordering you to do. It's a collaborative conversation. And what it does ultimately is It allows you to see, it opens your eyes to all the different ways that you can impact your health on a day-to-day, hour-by-hour basis. Things that you wouldn't even realize make a difference. Things that you're probably right now going, yeah, I should do that someday. Yeah, maybe I'll try that another time. Or I should really start eating better. I really need to drink more water. Maybe I should try exercising or going out this afternoon. It goes from being an item on your to-do list to becoming a habit, because you really truly believe that doing that is actually going to make a difference in your health, in your ability to get pregnant and stay pregnant. It's like brushing your teeth. We brush our teeth not because our dentist tells us to or because our parents told us to as we were growing up. It's become a habit because we've also learned to believe that if we brush our teeth, we're going to prevent cavities, or we're going to be able to keep our teeth as we get older, or we're going to improve our dental hygiene, which is important. So we'll have healthy teeth when we smile. We believe that action that we do multiple times a day helps us to do that. And that's the same thing when it comes to fertility and pregnancy. You have to believe that what you're doing actually makes a difference. Not do it because your mother-in-law told you or your nurse practitioner told you to do it, but because you believe it's going to make a difference. And if you don't believe it's going to make a difference, don't do it. Because then it's just one more thing on your to-do list, and you're probably quite busy as it is. Don't bother. But it goes back to this idea of, do you believe that anything and everything you're doing is making a difference? Do you even believe that you can make a difference? That's really the question. Do you believe that you can make a difference? Let me put it to you another way. When you are thinking about your digestion, your stomach, we can't really control if we develop some kind of digestive complication or some kind of digestive problem. But what is in our control is what we put into our body to improve that digestion, right? If you eat constipating food, you're going to be constipated. If you eat leafy greens and lots of vegetables and fruits and a balanced meal multiple times a day, you're going to improve your digestion. How much improved based on what's going on in your health? We don't know, but it's good for you and it's going to improve. And that is the same thing that works with fertility and pregnancy. All the little blocks are setting up for a healthier, happier, stronger body that is more conducive to carrying a pregnancy as far as possible. All the things you do make a difference. And that is true even if you have complications. That's exactly the work that I do. I typically, for the most part, I don't work with women who have typical pregnancies but are anxious. I work with women who have complications and are super, super stressed out and anxious and worried because I want them to see the changes that happen in their bodies when they make this shift. You can take your train from one track to the next. Number one, by believing that it's possible, and number two, by turning that belief into action. I'm really hoping that this is sinking in for you. Now, I understand that part of the issue here, when people talk about it like this, why people say, oh, you have no control, just let it be, let's see what happens, is because there is a sense of responsibility that comes, and a guilt and a self-blame, or maybe even an other blame, when things don't go the way that you want. For example, you lose the baby, you miscarry, you have an ectopic pregnancy, you have a stillbirth, you deliver preterm. And I get that. I live that. I have lived that with that guilt and that blame for a long time. I know that very, very well. And that is the problem. The problem is we've got to remove the connection between that end result and what is your responsibility and what is in your control. The end result is not your control, right? There's no particular outcome that's guaranteed just because you do something. People who run marathons and eat vegan diets develop cancer, right? It's not the outcome that we're going for. People can have the most perfect pregnancies, They can do everything right, have all the vitamins and supplements and minerals and manage their stress and do everything perfectly, and they will still miscarry and they will still deliver preterm. It is not the outcome that we are looking at. We have to separate the outcome from the actions that are in your control. Your job, when you are trying to get pregnant, when you are trying to stay pregnant, is to focus on what is in your control, which is doing and giving your body the best chance possible to get pregnant and stay pregnant. That is 100% in your control. What happens after that, that's not on you. But when you take responsibility for doing what is best for your body and accepting what's in your control and being in charge of that, that is what being in control means. That is what being in control means. It's not sitting back and throwing your legs up and waiting and seeing and just kind of sitting on your hands and hoping for the best that you make it to 40 weeks. No. Your body, yes, is programmed to help you stay pregnant as long as it's safe for you and your baby. That is true. But it cannot do that without your help. Now, for me, that point was 24 weeks and 5 days. For you, it might be before that, it might be after that. That day was the final day where it was safe for me to be pregnant. Had I stayed pregnant longer than that, it is likely both of our lives would have been in danger. And I don't know what would have happened. Your job is to help your body get as far as it possibly can, and it cannot do that without your help. You need good prenatal care, and you need to be in control. It is not a sit back and wait and see what happens. And I am so tired of that message out there so freely with this idea that wanting to be in control is a bad thing. It is not a bad thing. It is a very, very good thing. You are doing a good thing for you and your baby to want to be in control of your health. Whether you're trying to get pregnant right now or you are pregnant right now, it is a very, very good thing. But make sure you are separating the outcome from what is actually in your control. We don't know where the train is going to go. We don't know how far it's going to go on that track. We don't know where it's going to stop. Your job is to fuel that train so it can get as far as it can go. You have more control than you are made to believe when it comes to your fertility, your pregnancy, and your postpartum health. And believing that with every fiber of your being, just really, really believing that is so critical to helping you get pregnant, stay pregnant, and heal postpartum. Thank you so much for joining me here today. If you liked today's episode, please head over to iTunes or Apple Podcasts by iTunes and subscribe and leave a review so more women who are being told that they have no control and no power and there's nothing they can do as they're trying to build their family can come to Delivering Miracles and hear episodes like this to receive that inspiration, that motivation, and that hope that they do have more control than they're being told. And if you like today's episode, you will love Pregnancy Brain. That book that I just wrote is all about all the things you can control during a high-risk pregnancy to help your body do what it does best. Keep you pregnant for as long as is safe for you and your baby, however long that might be. So you can grab your copy on Amazon or barnesandnoble.com, and the links are easily available to you. It's at pregnancybrainbook.com. Also, I would love to stay in touch, so follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or Pinterest at Parijatdesh, Parijatdesh. You are so much more powerful than you realize at influencing your reproductive health. I believe that with all my heart, and I hope you do too. And I hope that you have a medical team that reminds you of that every time you see them too. And if not, you have me, you've got the podcast, you've got the loved ones around you who believe it too, who can remind you, because I don't want you to ever forget it. Being in control is a good thing. And you have the power to do it in so many more ways than you might even realize at this moment. I really believe this, and I can't wait to hear what epiphanies you have about what's in your control too. I really, really believe in you, and I know you can do this. Take it one day, one step at a time. You can do this.